The future of TikTok remains an open question this morning. And if you're looking for provocative ideas about what the future may hold, let's check in with Jason Calacanis, angel investor and founder of Inside.com. Morning, Jason. Good to see you.
Good morning. I hope everybody's safe. Thanks for having me on the program.
Yeah. What do you think happens here?
Well, first off, obviously, we need to totally have our heads examined here in America, because we literally are talking about kombucha girl, and this generation is completely soft. They are a generation of snowflakes who care more about their follower counts than they do about, getting STEM degrees and building important companies and being entrepreneurs and capitalists. This is a lost generation here in America, and China is laughing at us, where we actually care more about our follower counts while they care about STEM degrees and engineering degrees and starting companies and, candidly, becoming a superpower. And we're sitting here on CNBC talking about kombucha girl and about your follower counts and how important that is. Give me a break.
All right.
They built a Tesla factory in under a year, Carl. It's ridiculous.
Microsoft might take some issue with our priorities being backwards, given what they've built. Would they be a good caretaker of this platform?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Microsoft can buy it. That's fine. Apple should not buy it. I saw Axios maybe was talking about Apple buying it. Apple has no idea how to do content moderation. So that's a terrible idea. But because Microsoft has dealt with communities, content, and having the Bing search engine, they have the ability to deal with scrubbing content and dealing with those issues. I'm not sure Apple has the DNA to be able to do this, but our country has to take a really deep look and understand that China is absolutely going to demolish our country if we don't get our priorities straight. And that's really the bigger issue here, is the relationship with China. We're changing the end of movies in America just to make an incremental couple of bucks there. We're allowing them in our app store, and which obviously means that the CCP has complete access to that information. Any New York Times journalist who believes that they're not having that data is completely naive and lost their minds. Of course, the Chinese government has every piece of information. And we're sitting here talking about follower accounts while students in Hong Kong are being arrested. And when Daryl Morey, the greatest mind in basketball in our country, stands up for the people of Hong Kong, he gets admonished by other players and other owners in the NBA. It's disgraceful. We need to stand for human rights, and we need to realize that if we don't win capitalism, and if we get soft, and this generation of snowflakes cares more about their follower accounts than they actually care about building world-dominating companies, we are going to lose to a communist country that is going to have massive power over us. This is a very serious issue, and TikTok is but the tip of the spear.
Jason, we talk about it all as time, but right now, the pawn in play...
I'm just mad, Carl. I'm mad about the whole dialogue.
I get it. As are a lot of people, but the pawn in play right now is TikTok. It's unclear to me whether or not you think an outright ban a la India is appropriate, or whether it can be used to establish some kind of reciprocity in China itself.
Well, I mean, that's the obvious one, Carl. If they're allowed to bring TikTok here, and they're allowed to have access to all those microphones, all that location data, and let's not be naive, other countries have used location data to track Navy SEALs and elite law enforcement folks. I mean, that is what's at stake here. And I know that sounds crazy, but just do a couple Google searches about what happened with Facebook data during the Iraq and the Afghanistan wars. People were being tracked on those systems to be assassinated here. So yes, reciprocity, which, by the way, the Chinese government will never do. And any American who goes working for TikTok, like this guy from Disney is doing, needs to have their head examined, because what's going to happen to him is what's happened to Terry Semel, which Yahoo had to worry about their employees going to jail to be tortured and re-educated in China unless they handed over dissidents, religious leaders, and people who wrote books. Okay, that's what's at stake here. This is a massive human rights issue. Absolutely, we should ban it. They should not be allowed in our stores. Now, when it comes to hardware and making cables, maybe that's an easier place for us to have engagement. But we've also got somebody in the White House right now who his style of negotiating, I don't think is going to do very well in a nuanced situation like that. If the pandemic and our reaction to that is any indication, we need to get this guy out of office and have somebody in office who can manage this, because this is the existential crisis, not only for America. It's an existential crisis for humanity and democracy and freedom.
Jason, it's David Faber. I'm not often on this show, so I don't get to listen to you. But man, you're all over the place. I mean, by the way, Kevin Mayer, the CEO of TikTok, probably looking for a new job right now, because either way, either he's getting shut down or he's getting bought by Microsoft. So that guy probably doesn't have a job. So I wouldn't worry too much about him. But let me just come back to you on the young people thing, calling them all snowflakes and the fact that they're all interested. I mean, have you noticed the protests that have been unprecedented around this country and the fact that they have been populated largely by people under the age of 30 who seem to want to actually change things? I don't exactly know where you're coming from there.
Absolutely fantastic that the anti-racism protests occurred. That is a good sign for this generation. But the weak spot right now is that we are not investing in building great companies. This generation does not believe in capitalism. They believe in socialism. And we're up against a competitor. We're up against a competitor who believes in capitalism combined with communism. And by the way, that is going to roll over our version of capitalism. It's going to roll over our version of capitalism if we're not careful. And I think that we have to take it more seriously, and we have to really think about what is our relationship going to be? Because if we don't put human rights at the start of every business discussion with China, then humanity is going to flip. And we're right on the border of more people in this world living under authoritarian control than in democracy. Everything in this world is going up and to the right in a great way in terms of life expectancy and poverty going down. The one thing that's stalled is people living in democracies. And that is the existential crisis for the second half of our lifetime.
Jason, even with the current state of our democracy and even with this anti-immigrant fervor that this administration has had, this is still the place that you probably want to come to try to start a business. It's still probably the place you want to come to try to get educated if you can get in. You're not going to China.
No, but you're going to Canada, or you're staying in China, or you're staying in India, because we have decided that our immigration policy is not going to be based upon how likely you are to create the next Tesla and SpaceX or become the CEO of Microsoft or Google. We're basing it on, I don't know what, some political, partisan, trying to go to people's most base instinct and fear that people are going to steal their jobs. We need to have a point-based system like Canada, like the Scandinavian countries, and like Australia. It's a very simple system. How much value are you going to provide to this society in terms of your advanced degrees? And as that goes up, your chances of getting in go up. And of course, we have some amount of slots for dissidents. But that's a very important point. This is a multifaceted discussion. We have to first of all, let these really intelligent people into the country, and we have to have them want to come here. And they're not going to want to come here if the goal of this country is to trend on TikTok. Our goal needs to be to change the world by getting to the moon first. We need to build great high-paying jobs. We need to stop vilifying capitalism, stop vilifying entrepreneurs. Sure, there is a wealth discrepancy in this country, but we're not running over our citizens with tanks like China did in Tiananmen Square. We're not torturing booksellers like China did in Hong Kong. And there's a false equivalency going on here that, the Chinese people are, the Chinese government isn't that bad. This is an authoritarian country with a ruler for life. Wake up, people. This is going to be the existential crisis for humanity that is probably more acute right now than even global warming.
Jason, Julia Borston here. I want to shift gears from the education crisis you're talking about and shift to a different kind of education crisis. I'm also here in California. My kids are also not going to be going back to a physical school in the fall. Brutal. And you drew a lot of criticism for your decision to tweet out that you're creating a micro school and you're trying to hire a teacher. Why did you decide to put this out on Twitter? Well,
because every person out there is doing it. I mean, we're seeing every family discussing what are we going to do with our kids in September, because all due respect to Zoom, which, by the way, I think has handled their China issue very well in terms of getting their servers out of China and really addressing that issue seriously. So I do give them some credit for that. But we are absolutely pathetic that we couldn't shut down bars and churches, et cetera, for just 60 days and let our kids go back to school. And it looks like this is going to continue. So what I believe parents should do is they should create pods. And I didn't come up with this. Pandemic pods has been trending for a couple of months now. But basically hire somebody who is out of work for whatever amount of money, chop it up between 5, 6, 7 parents, and have a pod in your backyard or in some open air place if the weather allows for it, or in a smaller pod and get tested regularly, and then still have all those teachers be employed. And so this is a net new job that I'm creating. I'm trying to find somebody who is a teacher who can handle, call it 4 to 7 students in my backyard, because we're lucky enough to be in Northern California, where it's basically 65 degrees every day. And we'll still do the distance learning with the teacher from our public school that we're in, but then we'll have somebody here so that mom and dad can go to work. And this is what we should be spending the stimulus money on. And by the way, I'm absolutely infuriated as well today in general with everything, because the fact that our government cannot pass the second goddamn stimulus bill, sorry for my anger right now, but how dare these people go on?
Jason.
How dare them go on vacation without solving this problem for parents and people who are suffering and getting some unemployment or some stimulus? Hire a person who's a retired educator and educate your kids if you can do that. And I think micro schools and pods, they might stick with us post-pandemic because I think it's not a bad model.
Well, Jason, I'm sure it seems easy to do in Northern California, but I don't need to tell you that the argument that it's the pinnacle of privilege to do this plays with a lot of people. I mean, this is not something most Americans can do.
I don't know if that's correct, Carl. I mean, if you hired a college student for $15, $20 an hour who's out of work right now, and we have 10, 20 million Americans available, and 6 families, chop up 5 hours at $15 an hour, $75, $10 a day, $20 a day each. I actually think it's available to almost all Americans. Now, if you're talking about hiring a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 teacher for one student, yes, that is privilege. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I'm going to pay for the bill of this, and we're just going to invite 3 or 4 families who can't afford it to hang out in our backyard until hopefully we solve this pandemic. So I don't know. I did the numbers, and it seems to me teachers are highly underpaid in this country. The average salaries seem to be $45,000 to $70,000. And if you put 5 to 10 kids in your backyard, or if you have an office space that's empty, I have a friend in New York who told me they're using their old office space since nobody's allowed to go to work. And they're going to have a giant conference room, and the company is going to pay for somebody to come in. And you still have the teacher doing the distance learning, but then you have somebody in the room with the kids to actually help them learn and to take the lessons that they just did on Zoom and actually put them to work. So I think before we're cutting each other down because we're trying to come up with creative solutions, it's one of the problems with Twitter is anytime anybody comes up with a creative solution or an entrepreneurial solution in this country right now, we feel the need to destroy them. We need more entrepreneurial solutions.
That's what Twitter does.
Destroy people, yes.
Jason,
exactly.
next time bring a point.
Crazy.
Next time bring a point of view, okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just, this pandemic has got me on tilt. I apologize to everybody that I'm so upset right now, but we have to solve this pandemic. Please wear a mask. Please do not go to bars, young people. Just for a month or two.
We're all walking on mental eggshells, Jason. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.
All right, guys, stay safe.
Jason Calacanis.
Yeah, Carl, Jason is not one to mince words.